Good evening. This meeting is now called to order. This is the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, February the 1st, 2023. We are meeting today to interview qualified applicants for the 1st District Council seat previously held by late Councilwoman Linda Gray. I am Trippy Congo, President of Wilmington City Council, and I will be chairing today's meeting. First, we're going to have a roll call. Councilman Johnson, Councilwoman Darby, Councilman Nathan Field,
Present.
Councilman Spadola, Councilwoman Harley, Councilwoman Oliver,
Present.
Councilwoman Brigida Fields,
Present.
Councilwoman Yolanda McCoy,
Here.
Councilwoman Cabrera, Councilman Mills,
Present.
Councilwoman Bracy.
Present.
And Councilwoman Harley has just joined us.
Present.
Thank you. I would also like to recognize our Chief of Staff, Mona Parikh, our Assistant City Solicitor, John Stant, and our Legislative Advisor and CFO, Marshall Bassnight. The 1st District Councilmatic seat was declared vacant on December the 1st with the adoption of Resolution 22-075. City Charter, Section 2-101, provides council with the authority to appoint a person to complete the remaining term based upon the qualifications as outlined in City Charter, Section 2-103. Council is following the procedures to fill the council vacancy as outlined in City Code, Section 2-34. The Department of Elections verified all of the qualified interview candidates. Today, we will be interviewing them. All interviews are slated for up to 20 minutes. Responses to the questions are limited to 2 minutes. All of today's qualified candidates were provided with a list of potential interview questions. Public comment is the second item on the agenda for today. All public comments are limited to 3 minutes, and members of the public only speak once. All candidates will be assigned an identifier, which will occur during executive session. Each member of this committee shall identify candidates to fill the vacant seat based upon the identifier. It is the intent of council to have someone in this vacated seat by tomorrow, Thursday, February the 2nd, based upon the recommendation of this committee of the whole. I would like to also recognize Councilwoman Cabrera.
Thank you.
The first interview for today is Mr. Colby Owens. Mr. Owens, will you please come to the podium to my left? And please remember to speak directly into the microphone.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Owens. Thank you for coming in today. You're here to interview for the 1st District Council seat. Again, this interview is limited to 20 minutes, and you have up to 2 minutes to answer each question. Please direct your responses to council. Ms. Bassnight from council staff will ask the interview questions, which will allow council to focus on your responses. Ms. Bassnight?
Yes. Mr. Owens, can you assure this committee that you meet all the qualifications for the 1st District Councilmanic seat as outlined in the charter, namely the age, district residency, and party affiliation requirements? And please share for the record.
Yes, I can. My name is Kobe Owens. I'm 27 years old, born on February 20th, 1995. I'm a longtime resident of the 1st Councilmanic District, and I am a proud Democrat.
Briefly share with this committee a little bit about yourself and why you want to represent the 1st District and what you hope to accomplish.
Like I said, I've been a longtime resident of the 1st Councilmanic District. I was born and raised on 36th Street. I've only lived in 2 different houses throughout my life. This is the community that helped build me into the man I am today. And I want to give back to my community. Every day I roll up my sleeves and I work with the community, whether it's the nonprofits, whether it's our neighbors, in getting solutions done for our neighbors, making sure that we're meeting the needs that are there. One of the things I love so much is the fact that I serve as the board vice president of the Police Athletic League of Wilmington, fostering a bridge between our police and our community, especially our youth who need it the most, giving them an opportunity to go somewhere that is safe, that they do not have the fear of the violence on the street, somewhere where they can grow and build and be a part of that. That's one of the biggest honors of my life. Working with our neighbors and our civic associations to address quality of life issues, addressing things that have been left unheard for years. That's what I am about. That's who I am. I sit on numerous boards. I'm the vice chair of the Delaware Democratic Party. Like I said, I'm the vice president of the POW, which is in the heart of the 1st District. But I also serve on a lot of other civic associations. I serve on the Northwest Civic Association. I serve with the Sierra Club. And I also am a proud member of the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League staff.
What do you feel are the 3 top issues facing the residents of the 1st District?
So there's a few things. I think one is quality of life issues. Looking at how we can address the quality of life issues, whether it's smaller things like addressing streetlights being out, stop signs being down and not being replaced, addressing the fact that sometimes there is trash left out and dumping going on in our neighborhood, especially at some of the businesses that have come into our community are not really doing what they're supposed to make sure that they're addressing things like that. Second, I would say public safety. Public safety is so much, and it's a term that a lot of us use. In my view, public safety is making sure everyone is safe. For that child to be able to walk to the store, for that parent to feel comfortable having their individual child stay home and go to the park. For our seniors who want to age in place and be where they retire and feel comfortable in their house. That's some of the issues that we're dealing with. And lastly, I would say housing stability. We've seen our district change over the years, especially we have more renters in. We have a lot of houses that are facing blight and dilapidation. We need to come together and work together to address those issues.
The city established a Citizens Complaint Review Board, which is authorized to investigate complaints against law enforcement officers employed by the Wilmington Police Department. It makes reports of the investigation and recommends any necessary changes. Do you believe this board is necessary in the city? Why or why not?
I absolutely believe it's necessary for the city, and I just want to applaud City Council for passing it at the end of 2020. I think they listened to what we saw in the civil uprisings during 2020 and really listened to the community. Councilman Johnson worked with the community to get this bill done and get it passed and establish a civilian review board. While I know there's still a lot of work to do, especially outside of the control of the city council, making sure that Dover actually gives it the power that it needs to do things. I think this was a critical and needed first step of addressing the needs of the citizens that spoke out from all corners of our city.
Describe how you would best handle a difference of opinion between your stance on an issue versus how the administration views an issue.
So I think anyone who knows me knows I'm a community organizer and know that whenever I take a stance on something, I do 2 things. 1, I do my research, and 2, I listen. And that's how I would address that. I would go to the mayor's administration. I would be proactive and approach them to talk about where we may not see eye to eye and see what we can come up with to kind of build that bridge and come up with a resolution that we can both agree on so that we make sure that the 1st District is being dealt with care and their needs are being addressed. That's how I work in my everyday life. I will meet with anyone regardless of our own personal biases. I will meet with anyone to work and roll up my sleeves and get things done. Anyone in here who knows me knows that's the type of work I'm willing to do.
Specify the time commitment you believe is necessary to serve effectively as the 1st District Council member.
Now, while technically this position is part-time, I understand that this is full-time work. It's meeting with constituents, meeting with stakeholders, meeting with small business owners, and working together to make sure all their needs are addressed. And then the last part of that is working with my fellow council members, if I'm so lucky to be picked, so that we can make sure that when we have a piece of legislation, we can get to the magic number of 7, and hopefully we can even get to 13 on a lot of things. I feel as though I will work overtime to make sure that that is being met. See, I am willing to dedicate as much time as needed, whether it's weekends or just a 9 to 5. I am willing to meet people where they're at. I understand a lot of people work, so making sure you're available after work, making sure you're available in the morning, but also making sure I'm considering my own mental health and self-health, making sure I'm taking time for personal growth as well too, and really listening to my community.
Do you believe you have the temperament that is necessary for a district council person to work with the public to address a wide variety of quality of life issues? Give examples.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, we've been working on issues for a long time. I know I'm young, but this is something I've been passionate about for a long time. In my day job, I work as an advocate. I'm the advocacy director of the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League. So I am used to working on policy, going into communities and listening to their needs and crafting policy based off of that. I think my temperament comes off as very calm, cool, and collected. Why I am very passionate. Anyone who knows me knows my passion. But I think that drives me to do better. That drives me to want to listen to those who are on the forefront of any community to make sure that their needs are being brought to the forefront.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Ms. Bass Knight, and thank you, Mr. Owens, for coming out this evening, and hopefully you will know the selected recommendation for the seat by the end of this evening. Our second interview candidate is Mr. Vincent White. Mr. White, will you please come to the podium to my left, and please remember to speak directly into the microphone.
Good evening.
All right, thank you again, Mr. White. You're here to interview for the first district council seat. This interview is limited to 20 minutes, and you have up to 2 minutes to answer each question. Please direct your responses to council. Ms. Bass Knight from council staff will ask all of the interview questions, which will allow us to focus on your responses. Ms. Bass Knight?
Mr. White, can you assure this committee that you meet all the qualifications for the first district councilmanic seat as outlined in the charter, namely age, district residency, and party affiliation requirements? Please
Yes.
share for the record.
Yes, I can. I'm Vincent White. I'm 69 years old. I live on 40th Street in the city, and I'm a proud Democrat.
Briefly share with this committee a little bit about yourself and why you want to represent the first district and what you hope to accomplish.
Thank you. I'm a long-time activist in the community. I've lived in First District for over 25 years. I relocated from the suburbs to the city intentionally. My desire...
Excuse me, Mr. White. Can you check and see if your mic is on? They're having audio problems. You said it? No.
Doesn't sound like it's on. There we go.
All right, thank you.
Let me,
Repeat the question, please.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so briefly share with this committee a little bit about yourself and why you want to represent the first district and what you hope to accomplish.
Thank you. I have a demonstrated record of involvement not only in the first district but throughout the city. I have a record of leadership and I would say stick-to-itiveness in terms about following issues, about getting things done. Anybody that knows me knows that I don't have the longest attention span in terms of moving issues along, but I am very much directed towards service. Everything I've done has been on the benefit of others, whether it's my involvement. I've been the civic president of Northwest Civic for over 15 years. I've been active on the First District Planning Council for over 10 years. I'm the former chairman of the Wilmington Housing Authority and the longest serving commissioner of over 15 years. So I serve on the Delaware Council of Housing appointed by the governor, and this is my 6th term of a 3-year appointment there. So I've worked on issues that I think have a direct impact upon my neighbors. And I say that word neighbors wholeheartedly. It is not just people, they are my neighbors, and what affects them affects me. We talk about issues of youth. Years ago, my relationship with the Powell Center, I created what they call the Shoe Shine Brigade. We've identified 5 children, 5 young men, and we taught them skills in terms of shining shoes, entrepreneurial skills. And we took that, and that was a part of the First District initiative. We took those youth and put them, at that time, I think it was Rodney Square. It was their first time earning a salary. It was the first time having their own money. And if you could see the pride in that, if you could see the confidence that came from that, it just was enormous. So my involvement goes well beyond anything recent, but it continues. As I said before, we have a Northwest Civic Association. We did not miss any meeting during the pandemic, not one. My neighbors would not capitulate to not meeting. So we met Zoom, and now we meet a little bit of a hybrid. So again, it's an encouragement that I try to put forward to allow my neighbors and my community to know that we can get the work done.
What do you view as the 3 top responsibilities of a district city council member?
The first one is obviously based on the charter is to pass a budget. The second one is to communicate effectively and consistently with the people that you represent. The other issue is looking at the broader picture of the issues that involve the city as a whole and moving legislation if necessary, but more so having a conversation about the issues with my colleagues, with the administration, and with the community. Effective communication is key, and a part of that is listening, to be an active listener, not just to what's being said, but also what's being heard.
How would you handle criticism from the public regarding a controversial piece of legislation that you are the lead sponsor of that was enacted into law?
Well, first of all, I would handle it respectfully and professionally. You got to take time to listen to people's concerns. Nobody's right 100% of the time. So listening to their concerns and making certain that their voices are heard and incorporated into possible changes or amendments, right? And you should also be able to engage, not be afraid to engage the people that you represent. Their voices are important. Their ideas are important. Nobody's 100% right. And so there may be issues that need to be sculptured in a number of different ways to make certain that the district is represented, or make certain that the city as a whole is represented. And criticism, as I'm sure many of you sit out there know, is a part of this job. And so handling it professionally and respectfully would be my best solution.
Discuss the purpose of an ordinance and a resolution and why they both are important for city council.
An ordinance is something that's passed by local government. It normally involves or applies to certain citizens of that jurisdiction. It could be zoning, it could be public health, it could be public safety. A resolution is an opinion, a will, or purpose of council. It doesn't carry the same weight as ordinance, but it's normally used to express the council's opinion on a particular issue or a set policy for the city.
Do you believe you have the temperament that is necessary for a district council person to work with the public to address a wide variety of quality of life issues and give examples?
Yes, I do. I mentioned earlier that I served on the Wilmington Housing Authority Commissioners Board for 14 years. And there were many times when members, residents of public housing, Section 8, landlords, elected officials would come to that group on certain issues. My temperament has always been to listen and to make certain that I understand what is being said and to weigh that understanding with the needs that the people are expressing as well as the elected officials. So we've replaced 4 directors in my 12 years. 4 directors. With that came a lot of conversation. With that came a lot of collaboration. With that came an understanding that we need to do what's best for the public housing residents as a whole. And I think we moved that needle in that direction.
How would you handle a situation in which you cannot agree with some fellow council colleagues during a council meeting or a committee meeting?
Well, I'd take a deep breath. I would listen. I would actively engage the person or the parties that I had a disagreement with, and I would make certain that I'm understanding what the issues are and how they view them. A lot of times we go into a situation, disagreements or arguments about who wants to be right. If you remove that who wants to be right, you can get to the bottom of a lot of issues. So I tried not to come into any situation, and this is a part of maturity and understanding, with the notion that I'm right, but I come with the notion that I need to listen and understand and make certain I capture what that person's intent is and how that impacts upon their particular perspective. We all have different perspectives. So understanding people's perspectives is key.
President Conga?
Thank you, Ms. Basnight, and thank you, Mr. White, for coming out today. And hopefully you will know the selected recommendation for this seat by the end of this evening.
Thank you for the opportunity and the consideration.
You're welcome. Mr. Gray, will you please come to the podium to my left? And I ask that you speak directly into the microphone. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize council members Johnson and Darby.
Good evening, good evening, Mr. President, and good evening, council members.
Good evening, Mr. Gray, and thank you for coming in today. You are here to interview for the 1st District Council seat. This interview is limited to 20 minutes, and you will have up to 2 minutes to answer each question. Please direct your responses to council. Ms. Basnight from council staff will ask the interview questions, which will allow us to focus on your responses. Ms. Basnight?
Mr. Gray, can you assure this committee that you meet all the qualifications for the 1st District councilmanic seat as outlined in the charter, namely age, district residency, and party affiliation requirements? Please share for the record.
Yes, I can. Age 73, been living in the 1st District most of the time in Wilmington, close to 47 years, and I'm a registered Democrat.
Briefly share with this committee a little bit about yourself and why you want to represent the 1st District and what you hope to accomplish.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, I am the spouse of the late Councilwoman Linda Gray, who represented the 1st District and was elected in the last campaign for that seat. I was married to her for 51 years and spent 55 years with her. Of course, her spirit is still inside of me. And I listened to the little voices, and I think that Linda's voice has said to me that I should at least present my credentials to the City Council and that I should seek to fill her seat for the remainder of her term. And I do know some of the passions that she brought into the chamber, some of the issues that she's worked on. And I know that in terms of public safety, in terms of economic development on North Market Street, these were things that were important to her And I also have some thoughts and ideas that I've seeded with her over the course of her term, such as perhaps a community solar installation that would help communities to afford more of their utilities in the city community. And I do sit currently on the Public Service Commission, so I would seek to expand the value I could bring to the First District, some of which would give me a great amount of gratification, not only for Linda, but for the district that I've lived in since the time I've arrived in Wilmington.
Considering that gun violence is plaguing our city as well as this country and has led to many unnecessary deaths, how would you address this matter with administration and with your constituents?
With respect to gun violence, I have the opinion, and of course it's my opinion, and I would have to do more research on this, but that the city in large measure has no authority or standing to regulate gun laws within the city jurisdiction. One of the issues that I'm confounded by a little bit is if the city were to implement gun restrictions, I don't believe the city has a court to adjudicate violations. I don't think that the city has administered or budgeted any funds for enforcement to actually enforce such regulations on a municipal level. I do think that there's opportunities to work with the city administration as well as our state and federal representatives to come forward with plans and policies that could blunt some of the consequences of guns and violence in the city. But I'm not convinced that the city has the jurisdiction in today's world to actually administer enforcement or to adjudicate violations.
What do you feel are the top 3 issues facing the city of Wilmington?
The first issue I think for the city of Wilmington is I think we have too many renters and tenants. I think that becomes an issue for folks who may not, in many cases, take the pride of ownership and property or form the basis of good community and community relations. I think it would be wise and it would be a good idea to get more home ownership in the city, affordability of homes, so that people could take that pride and we could see the bonding of communities as opposed to tenants who seem to move between properties. The second issue, I think, I believe that there are educational deficits, and those educational deficits accrue to the inability to find jobs at livable wages, and therefore people don't seem often to have the resources to do what needs to be done in terms of contributing to their communities. The third issue, I think, although I think that it has improved, I think that we are on risk for crime in terms of drugs, violence, gun issues that needs constant vigilance, and we have to work toward making sure we manage those issues around public safety.
How would you prioritize overwhelming legislative, community, and other responsibilities while maintaining an overall balance?
Multitasking and complex project type of work is a foundation of the career that I've had over the years. I've started an IT company that actually did consulting work globally for Fortune 500 companies, and it has required an enormous amount of multitasking, and I have built and developed the discipline of project management as well as leadership and people management, contract negotiations, not only employment but benefits, contracts, and things of that nature. So the ability to operate in a complex environment is something that I have experienced for decades, and I've been reasonably successful at it in the past, and I would leverage those experiences and learnings in the context of a city council challenge.
City Council is the legislative branch of city government. What do you believe the council's role is in addressing issues affecting the citizens of Wilmington?
I think that first and foremost, the city council members should be the first bridge for their constituents to gain the services and the value from City Hall. I do think that there are also responsibilities among council members to listen to their constituents, wherein there may be new issues that are emerging within our community that haven't been dealt with by either ordinance or resolution in the past. But I think that the ability to gain insights from community involvement allows the council then to bring resolutions and ordinances into the chamber and actually to implement new laws, policies, and guidelines that can help improve the quality of life and manage some of the emerging challenges that may not have existed in the past. I think that the council should also be fiscally responsible to make sure that the city administration is managing appropriately the monetary resources that have been taken from the taxpayers, so that they're overseeing the budgets and making sure that the results are being delivered from City Hall on behalf of the citizens.
Do you believe you have the temperament that is necessary for a district council person to work with the public to address a wide variety of quality of life issues? Give examples.
I think I do. I have served for 2 terms on the Public Service Commission, and this is a responsibility that requires judicial temperament. I've been appointed by 2 separate governors to that role. I also had been appointed 3 times previously to the Environmental Appeals Board, which is another gubernatorial appointment at state level. And I've been formerly an economic director appointed by Mayor Williams for the city of Wilmington. And I think that in any and all of those roles, it does take a measure of temperament on balance to deal with the many varieties of constituents, attitudes, expectations, conflicts that require resolution. Give an example of just the measure of challenge in the economic development role. I asked my assistant after a year in that role to count how many meetings I had attended or had been involved in. 1,113 meetings. So you can imagine that the number of different personalities that one needs to deal with and needs to resolve with was quite substantial.
President Congo?
Thank you, Ms. Basnight, and thank you, Mr. Gray, for coming out today. And hopefully you will know the selected recommendation for this seat by the end of this evening.
Thank you very much to all the council members, and thank you so very much for the support you've given to my wife. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And next on the agenda is public comment. As a friendly reminder, all public comments are limited to 3 minutes, and each member is limited to speak just once. If you are here in chambers, as I call your name, please come to the podium to my immediate left. If you are participating through Zoom, please use the raise hand feature, and then you will be acknowledged to speak. Ms. Pamela Foster. And please watch your step as you're coming up to the podium. And please remember to speak directly into the microphone.
Good evening, President and Council. My name is Pamela Foster, 518 West 36th Street, District 1. I relocated here to Delaware in 1997.
I apologize. I believe it. It's all forget. See, it wasn't Kobe. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, President and council persons. My name is Pamela Foster at 518 West 36th Street, District 1. I relocated to Delaware in 1997, working for the DuPont Company. I've lived in the district ever since I've been here, which is close to 26 years as I think about it now, and I'm still North Carolina. I've known Kobe Owens. I'm here to speak on Kobe's behalf and attest to what he's and how he's represented himself today. I've worked with Kobe in various positions with campaigns. We served together in the city committee. I was vice president at the time. I find Kobe very civic engaged and intelligent. If I have a question in regards to city ordinance or state government or at the time, the committee for the Delaware Democrats, I would ask Kobe, and he would respond without hesitation in regards to the pros and the cons, and actually just taking the time to explain to me what it may be. I served with Kobe as well in the Harlan Park Civic Association. I also supported Kobe in his run for District 1 during the previous general election as well. Again, I find his skills, though we see Kobe as a young man, he's a very intelligent young man, a very fair young man. He's extremely active as he spoke in various things, not only for district, but across the board. I've seen him do the hard work that he's done at the Powell Center, in the role he has with getting the outside organization to support and come in and build a playground. If you haven't seen it, across the Powell, he did a lot of work. Again, he does pull up his sleeves and get the work done in support of everyone. And he's not biased. If something or someone within the city has a need, Kobe will definitely step up to support that. As he talked about his demeanor, how he supports and works and to draw consensus with everyone, I've seen him do that as well. So I'm here again to speak on behalf of Kobe Owens to fill the vacancy that currently exists. Thank you.
And thank you. Mr. Richard Smith. And Mr. Smith, please remember to speak directly into the microphone and to introduce yourself.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to speak for Kobe, but I'm here to tell you why. I've been around Mr. White since we went to Howard and Bancroft together. I was around him when he got Henrietta Johnson. He was the president of that board and stuff. I watched him go into the housing building business. I watched him grow from the housing business to the president of the board of directors and stuff. And I watch him deal with things and stuff. He's a great man. Kobe is another great man. If 2 o'clock come around, somebody got robbed, somebody got shot, somebody at the hospital can't get served, I need him to go to meetings with the bridge, with different developments, with different contractors. He's there. He's been with me 2 years now, and he's done grow up in the NWCP from where he was to the national. He's got plenty of wisdom, and he's my leader. I am not his leader. I live in the first, 715 East 26th Street. It's right on the line. I was in the first about 15 years ago on 36th Street. I know the first. I'm looking for somebody who's going to come down to 26th Street, 28th Street, and these neighborhoods where we don't get the service or where politicians don't really think about us. Everybody is somebody in the first, and everybody needs to be represented. So Kobe is my choice because of age. I'm too old to have the job right now for NWCP. I want a young person to take it. Young person must be out there, learn how to make decisions, and carry our life where we need to go. I thank all you young folks on here. You all got our life in your hands. So right now, no hard feelings to Mr. White, but Kobe is doing the thing. He meeting with the CEO of the hospital, the CEO of this, the CEO of that. He don't talk racist to me. He don't talk about Spanish. Whites enough. He deal with them all. He deal with everybody. So I hope you all consider him and give this young man a chance to be the leader like the other leaders I've done seen in the last 60 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And we do have 2 members of the public who are signed up through Zoom. First, we're going to call on Miss Adriana Bohm.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So I'd like to make a few comments, but I first wanted to say I appreciate being here this evening and having this public forum. So I highly and enthusiastically recommend Mr. Kobe J. Owens for the 1st District City Council open seat position. I believe Mr. Owens is the best candidate to fill this position for a number of reasons. First, Mr. Owens is committed to making Wilmington a safer community. He has worked with community centers to expand youth programming, engaged in advocacy around police reform, been a vocal supporter of civilian review boards, is on the record in support of police-worn body cameras, and has helped pass the Safe Communities Resolution. All these examples showcase his commitment to make Wilmington safer. Second, Mr. Owens is dedicated to systematically transforming the lives of our young people through multiple institutional mechanisms, such as education. For instance, he works closely with our youth and those creating educational policy by attending school board meetings, providing input on policy-based decisions both in written and verbal formats, and has drafted and written policy to improve student lives and outcomes. He has also worked closely with the NAACP on educational issues and with the community and elected officials on the Wilmington Learning Collaborative. Third, Mr. Owens is a trained organizer who knows how to bring different groups together in the form of coalitions to pass important policies. And I think that's what Mouse was talking about a few moments ago. He knows from his work and life experiences that community members come from numerous zip codes and possess different perspectives, outlooks, desires, dreams, abilities, interests, culture, and hopes. Instead of ignoring these differences and pretending they do not matter, Mr. Owens looks at the diversity of our community as an asset for community revitalization. A concrete example of this is the civil rights demonstration he helped organize on June 5th, 2020, which was identified as the largest civil rights demonstration to ever occur in Delaware. Fourth, Mr. Owens has a long-term social justice vision for making Wilmington a city which provides for all of its people through equitable pay, affordable transportation and housing, like the tenants' rights and housing bills, increase bureaucratic transparency and accountability, and by bringing groups together to creatively develop sustainable approaches to infrastructure problems such as flooding, environmental pollution, and creating green spaces in urban areas. As a professor myself and a Red Clay School Board member for the last 10 years, I cannot more highly recommend someone for this position than I can highly recommend Mr. Kobe J. Owens. Thank you for hearing my comments tonight, and have a blessed evening.
Thank you. Is Fern still with us? If so, can you please raise your hand, Fern, on Zoom? WITN, is Fern still a part of the Zoom? You said she is, but her mic isn't working? Are we able to turn it on for her? Okay, thank you. Fern? All right, I believe that Fern is having technical difficulties, so we're not going to be able to hear from her this evening. Give her a few more seconds. Any luck yet, WITN, Fern? Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on, and next on the agenda is assigning an identifier for all of the candidates, and I will accept a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We are now going into executive session. We're going to ask everyone to please exit at this time, except for council members. Good evening. We are now returning to the regular order of business. I accept the motion for the recommendation to fill the first district council vacancy with Vincent White, which we voted on by full council by resolution on Thursday, February the 2nd, 2023.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved in second on the question. Councilmember Johnson. We're not going to do a roll call vote. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Darby.
Yes.
Councilmember Field, Nathan Field. Councilmember Spadola.
Yes.
Councilmember Harley.
Yes.
Councilmember Oliver.
Yes.
Councilmember Brigida Fields.
Yes.
Councilmember McCoy.
Yes.
Councilmember Carrera.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracy.
Yes.
Councilmember Mills.
Yes.
Going back to Councilmember Nathan Field. My vote is yes. So we have 11 yeas, 1 absent, and 0 nays. Motion carried. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.